Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled Hunting Emma. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story begins by showing a young teacher named Emma who is teaching children in a primary school in South Africa. Like other primary school teachers, she also has a close relationship with her students. Like this time, where some of her students had insinuated about the holiday plans that Emma would go through with her boyfriend. Although it sounds fun, Emma seems reluctant to discuss it, not because she is uncomfortable with her students discussing her boyfriend, but because she is currently known to be in a bad relationship with her boyfriend. This condition makes Emma plan her holiday to return to her father's house. At least that way, she can go through the school holidays more calmly. Before leaving her school, Emma had time to meet her fellow teachers. She had just received a big bag from one of her cousins, so she inevitably carried the bag on her journey. On the other hand, a group of men was seen packing forbidden goods they would send somewhere. The group led by Bossman divided the group into two cars. One group was escorted using a car while Bossman rode the van carrying the goods. Interestingly, one of Bossman's men and nephew, Pete, seemed very nervous about the task he got. It turned out that this package delivery was the first task he got. So it's no wonder his gesture looks awkward compared to Bossman's other men. Once everything was ready, the group traveled. At the same time, Emma, still enjoying her trip, called her father to inform him of her position. Not only that, Emma even asked her father to activate the stopwatch. They seem to have a unique tradition where the father can estimate the length of Emma's journey from afar just by utilizing the time they have set together. Discussion about Emma's boyfriend also colored their conversation on the phone, but this time, Emma seemed reluctant to discuss it. In fact, the father, who didn't want his daughter to be hurt by her boyfriend, was interrupted by Emma. Emma thinks she can solve her problems without her father's intervention. After contacting her father, Emma was upset by a text message that came to her phone. This message came from her boyfriend, who apologized and admitted his mistake. He also begged Emma so that their relationship could get back to normal. Feeling uncomfortable with the message, Emma finally replied by expressing her disappointment. From here, it is known that the root of the problem in their relationship is because Emma's boyfriend had been caught beating a man. This clearly inflamed Emma because she really hated fighting, especially to the point of such violence. However, her boyfriend argued that his actions were only in self-defense. Emma insists she wants a mature and patient partner, unlike her boyfriend, who she thinks is still childish. Not wanting to be bothered by the shadow of her boyfriend, Emma continued her journey to her father's house. In another location, the Bossman gang's journey is now experiencing problems because it turns out the route they are traveling is being watched by the police. The van they were driving was stopped, and police officers began checking the car's papers, including the driver's license. Ridiculously, Pete, who had been very tense from the start, was even more chaotic. His trembling body further aroused the officers' suspicion. To make matters worse, Pete, who tried to explain his condition, made the police even more curious. As a result, the police officer forced Pete and Bossman to get down and show the contents of their van. From a distance, Bossman's other men began to realize that their boss was in danger. They then tried to get closer and attract the attention of the police to keep Bossman and their shipment safe from the police. Unfortunately, the policeman who was alone in the middle of Bossman's gang finally had to surrender after being held at gunpoint by them.
Sit jy joune neer.
Kyk nie ouens, ons haal almal diep asem.
Even worse, even though the policeman had surrendered and was willing to let them go, he was still beaten and would be finished off in a deserted place. Meanwhile, Emma, who was still traveling, was forced to stop after her car broke down. The situation also got worse because there was no signal on her mobile phone. As a result, Emma, who doesn't know much about engines, can only hope for help. At the same time, Bossman's gang is now seen preparing to take the policeman's life. Bossman, wanting to train his nephew mentally, tells Pete to shoot the policeman. However, Bossman did not want to be rash. He first asked Pete to shoot one of the rocks as his target. Unexpectedly, Pete's shot at the rock was heard by Emma, who happened to be nearby. Thinking the gunshots were coming from poachers, Emma took the initiative to ask them for water, hoping that her car would come back to life after being cooled down. Eagerly, she carried an empty bottle towards the source of the sound. However, who would have thought that what Emma found was not animal hunters, but a gang of criminals who intended to execute a policeman? Unfortunately, the shot Pete fired at the policeman startled Emma. Panicking, she dropped the bottle she was carrying until it broke. Bossman and his men, who heard Emma's whereabouts, finally chased her. The girl was captured by the gang. Like a gang of hungry wolves, Emma, who was caught, was not immediately executed like the police earlier. Instead, she had to face the heartbreaking fact that Bossman and his men were tempted to rape her first before finishing her off. However, one of Bossman's men, AJ, has a different opinion. He rejected the idea and chose not to participate in the action. Unexpectedly, the policeman who was shot earlier was not really dead. Pete's shot only hit his shoulder. The policeman slowly got up and sped up his car to escape. Seeing their target running away, Bossman and his men's attention was now focused on the policeman. They tried to chase him by continuing to shoot bullets at the police car, but none of the shots succeeded in stopping the car. Eventually, Bossman, who had better shooting skills, managed to shoot the policeman dead. At the same time, Emma, who escaped from surveillance, tried her best to break free from the handcuffs that bound her. Luckily, her attempt was successful. She escaped from the location. During her escape, Emma did not immediately run away without direction, but instead decided to return to her car and pick up the bag left by her cousin before continuing her attempt to escape. On the other hand, Emma's escape provoked Bossman's anger. However, he did not take out his frustration on his men. Instead, Bossman took swift action by tracing Emma's trail in the forest. Unfortunately, Emma, who only focused on taking her cousin's mobile phone and bag, left her passport in the car. As a result, Bossman's gang now knows Emma's identity. Still shocked by what she had just experienced, Emma was seen resting while calming herself down. At that place, Emma began to open the backpack left by her cousin, which turned out to contain camping equipment. Armed with several survival tools from the bag, Emma got up and started her escape again. Unexpectedly, Emma's escape was spotted by Bossman's gang. Pete, who was not considered a potential criminal from the start, has a unique ability. He can trace Emma's footprints. He acquired this ability while working as a forest security officer.
Dis hier oor die draad.
As jy klaar is, dan kom julle. Let's move, manne.
With Pete's skills, the Bossman gang arrived at Emma's previous location, where a backpack with a few items was left. From there, they began to speculate about Emma's condition, which might be nearby. With the hot and arid conditions, Emma would obviously be dehydrated and exhausted, so it was unlikely that they would find her anytime soon. On the other hand, a car was seen passing not far from Emma's car. The car's driver then got out after being curious to see a broken-down car on the side of the road. The man driving the car turns out to be Emma's father's friend. However, because there was no signal on his mobile phone, the man named Manny left Emma's car. He intended to go to another location to get a phone signal. The man quickly informed Emma's father about his findings, including the condition of the broken-down car without Emma in it. Hearing the news, Emma's father, Jack, immediately went to the location mentioned by his friend. Meanwhile, Emma, who was still on the run, suddenly realized that her footprints could be followed by a gang of criminals. Therefore, she tried with all her strength to make fake footprints. The goal was, of course, to confuse the criminals who were chasing her. Sure enough, Pete and the others began to be confused by Emma's footprints, which only circled around the area. Emma didn't just make one fake footprint, but 3 footprints at once in different directions. Realizing that their target was not an ordinary person, Bossman then divided his men into 3 groups according to the footprints they would trace. Meanwhile, exhausted and dehydrated, Emma suddenly found a water reservoir in the middle of the arid region. However, she immediately remembered her father's message that water is the source of life, but if it has been contaminated, it can be a source of health problems. Not wanting to be rash, Emma collected the water into her drinking bottle and put a neutralizer to make the contaminated water fit for consumption. Unbeknownst to her, however, Emma's presence had been noticed by AJ and Boella, who were watching her from a distance. Ridiculously, the 2 men did not immediately report Emma's whereabouts to Bossman. Instead, they got involved in an unimportant debate. Boella, who had previously failed to capture Emma, still lusted after the girl. He was determined to approach Emma first, rather than report her to Bossman. Despite AJ's protests, Boella, already in a lustful mood, could not be stopped. He then asked AJ to give him 10 minutes before they reported Emma's location to Bossman. At the same time, Jack and Manny had just arrived at the location of Emma's car. There, Jack began to observe and estimate what had happened to his daughter. In fact, he found out about the efforts to erase traces made by several mysterious people. Interestingly, Jack, who still doesn't know Emma's position, doesn't seem to be so worried about his daughter's condition. He believes his daughter will be able to solve her own problems. It is also revealed here that Jack used to be one of the best former elite troops from the reconnaissance division. Because of this, he often provides military-style training to his daughter, including teaching her many things about survival. Impressively, little Emma was able to quickly master every lesson given by her father, especially about martial arts and survival. Presumably, her mother's death from cancer had triggered Emma to become defensive and self-disciplined. However, these skills were inversely proportional to her ability to shoot. Emma has always had a hard time with guns. Her aim was always off, and even once she managed to shoot an animal, Emma was reluctant to enjoy her success. She seems to have a compassionate soul and doesn't want to hurt anyone, including animals. Despite her poor shooting skills, what Jack taught her benefited Emma greatly. When Emma, who was currently cornered by Boela, was suddenly able to turn the tables by stabbing the man to death. From a distance, AJ, waiting for news from Boela, began to get upset and worried about his friend. He finally contacted Boela via walkie-talkie, but there was no answer. Eventually, AJ was forced to tell Bossman about his condition, including the location where Emma was found. Hearing the news, Bossman was angry and immediately told AJ to catch up with Boela.
AJ!
How shocked AJ was when he found Boela had died covered in blood. Even the gun that Boela had previously carried had disappeared. In other words, Emma was no ordinary girl, but also a dangerous figure to watch out for. Bossman immediately moved towards AJ's location. Meanwhile, Emma, who also snatched Boela's gun and walkie-talkie, finally learnt a lot of information from the conversation between Bossman and his accomplices. She continues to run while looking for a new place to hide. At the same time, AJ, who was ordered by Bossman to chase Emma, arrived at one of the rocky cliffs that was believed to be the girl's escape route. However, unlucky for AJ, because he was too focused on Emma's footprints, he was hit by a large rock that was deliberately dropped by Emma. A fight ensued between the two, but Emma impressively defended herself and brutally killed AJ. Not satisfied with just finishing off Boela and AJ, Emma, who has now turned ferocious, dares to contact Bossman using AJ's walkie-talkie. Through the radio link, Emma says that she has already taken 2 lives, and now there are only 4 more she needs to get rid of. Feeling challenged, Bossman and 3 of his men rushed to track Emma's trail. Unfortunately, Emma, who was monitoring the movements of Bossman's group using binoculars, was spotted by one of Bossman's men named Jay. Suddenly, Bossman immediately fired his gun at Emma. Emma, who realized the shot, immediately took cover behind a large rock. In fact, she even ran towards one of the settlements not far from there. Bossman did not want to lose his target again and ordered his 3 men to approach Emma. At the same time, he continued to watch from a distance using his long-barreled rifle. Unexpectedly, the survival instinct her father had taught her made Emma, the homely girl, transform into a wild animal. Not only did she hide, but she was also able to take the lives of Bossman's men one by one. After eliminating all her opponents, Emma now has to face Bossman, who is known to be an expert in shooting. Bossman, who was already prepared with his rifle, wanted a one-on-one duel with Emma instead. Bossman wants to face Emma in a cowboy-style duel. Unexpectedly, Emma, known to be a poor shot, could take down Bossman with 2 pistols in her hands. In his yard, Jack, who hasn't seen Emma's appearance, begins to worry about his daughter's condition. In fact, he had shown a sad face with teardrops. However, these feelings were soon dispelled as Emma appeared in front of him exhausted, dehydrated, and bearing a gunshot wound to her shoulder. Emma shuffled and hugged her father as soon as she arrived home. Now, Emma was no longer an innocent, homely girl. She was a tough girl who had been able to put into practice every lesson her father had given her. In fact, she even said to Jack that she had learned a lot about shooting that day. Both father and daughter smiled happily. At the end of the film, Emma is seen recovering in the hospital. She seems to have been able to forgive and understand her boyfriend's attitude. In fact, Emma now realizes that defending herself is important, especially in difficult conditions like the one she experienced in the forest yesterday.